there is a multi-agency after-action report being put together for VDOT, Virginia State Police, and VDEM. I believe we're going to learn a great deal from this. Our commitment is that we're going to take every opportunity we can to improve what we do and to protect the traveling public to the very best of our ability, always. And while the report is underway, we are also committed that if there are things we can learn today, we're going to lean in and do them, so that, you know, we're taking every moment. We're encountering some very harsh weather, we just need to be prepared at all times for this. I will just say that, you know, for me personally, I was just so concerned when I learned of the situation. Again, jumped immediately into action, doing what I could, and I am just so sorry that that happened to anybody. It's heartbreaking for me that happened to anyone, and I just want you to know that anything I can help put in place to make sure that we identify any issues so that it can be improved, that's what I'm going to do.
I want to reassure the board, the Commonwealth, and the citizens of the Commonwealth and our traveling public that safety of the traveling public is first and foremost our top priority. There's nothing else there that we don't do, and it will always be our top priority. There are a lot of lessons to be learned. In short and sweet, did we do everything right for the department? The answer is no. There's a lot of lessons to be learned at that, and you have my full commitment that those lessons learned that are going to be garnered from this after-action report, we will look at every one of them and work to interject that into our business practice and change our procedures to help ensure that this doesn't happen again to the best of our ability.
I don't want anybody to walk out of this room thinking that we're making excuses for anything. These are the facts as we know them now. These are the facts that we'll take to our after action to begin work to see what happened, why it happened, where we can improve. Obviously, there'll be some things that we did good. There's some things that maybe not so good. So these are the facts going forward. So it was really a unique statewide storm. Again, we talked about the balmy weather. We had the rain. We had the high winds. And I think that rain is important because those high winds and heavy snow, you know, we had saturated soils, and that's what caused, and the winds and the snow caused a lot of those trees to fall down. If you remember last year, in the February time frame, we had a snowstorm. We had a lot of trees fall down in Southside Virginia. Took us several months, almost 4 months, to clean up all that debris. We have more debris on this storm than we did in that storm. Out of that 1.5 million cubic yards of debris, is kind of a hard thing to think about. We don't count trees. We just count how we got to haul it away. Over half of that amount was in the Culpeper District. Over 600,000 cubic yards were in the Culpeper District alone. The balance of it, a lot of it was in the Richmond District along that same corridor next to Culpeper, and then Fredericksburg and Lynchburg, Salem. The balance fell out there, but Culpeper, where they still have some power out, had over half of that debris. Historic rates of snow. 3 inches of snow an hour is a lot. The forecast was 1.5 to 2 inches per hour. So 3 inches per hour, what happens is that your trucks, even in great conditions, by the time they make one pass, say northbound or westbound, by the time they come back eastbound, that other lane is already covered up. So you're behind in your plowing as you go forward. So it makes it tough on crews to keep those roads clear, even with continuous plowing. That snowfall rate is important. Heavy traffic. So on that heavy traffic was noted statewide, 81, 95. But on the 95 corridor, the preliminary look at our counting stations along that, traffic volumes were significantly higher than what they were in a non-COVID year back in 2009. Looking at 2019, the same time, same days of the year. Those traffic volumes were significantly higher. As part of our after action, we'll dig into those numbers. We'll find out exactly where along those counting stations those numbers were higher. We'll find out what percentage was trucks, what was cars, those type of things. But that'll be part of our after action as we go forward. Because that's important because of the next bullet, that the commercial vehicles had trouble climbing the hills there up on 95. And so, as you know, those vehicles don't really have tires that work well in snow. They're for over-the-road type of things. So once the snow accumulated, they had trouble making some of those hills. And once they blocked up the lanes, and it's kind of like pouring water through a pipe. You know, you stick your finger in the end, and there's no place for it to go. It overflows, and so that's what happened there on 95. The other thing was, because that was, I'm gonna drop down to the bottom because it kind of flows together there. That there was a statewide storm, so you may ask yourself, well, why don't you just move traffic someplace else? You know, you got it jacked up on 95. Why don't you just move it someplace else? Well, 64 was blocked in eastbound and westbound. Route 1 had trees across it, and so there were many locations that they were trying to remove trees from Route 1. Route 301 was blocked, and then you get that cleared up, and they had a tractor-trailer crash on 301 that blocked the traffic there for a while. So not until we could have a viable alternate route were we able to detour traffic off of 95 there in Fredericksburg, so that once they got over to Route 1 or they decided to go out 64, they actually had a place they could go. We just didn't want to move them from one parking lot to another parking lot. That wouldn't be the right thing to do. So that's some of the thinking and some of the strategy that, you know, at a larger level that we had to look at. If it would have been only a storm in Fredericksburg, it would have made it a lot easier to detour that traffic earlier. The power outages affected us in a couple ways. One, power outages cause cell service challenges with the towers down, so that affected our ability to communicate with our folks out in the field. That's one of the best ways we have to communicate with cell phones with each other back and forth. So when the cell towers go down, it made it difficult to communicate. I know the commissioner was frustrated several times trying to talk to folks in the district, and the calls kept getting cut off and you couldn't hear. So that was the same way between the district office and those folks in the field trying to communicate with their people there. And also the traffic cameras were down, so we had no eyes out there on 95 to see what was going on. And also all of our signals along Route 1, many of our signals, not say all, many of our signals along Route 1 where we would have wanted to alternate push traffic over, some of our signals were down. So we had generators on many of those signals to keep them working, but there were still signals at intersections where it didn't have power, and the signals weren't working. So that power outages, not only, we talked about the 500,000 people that were without power, but that power outage has also affected their ability to respond and be able to have options during that time.
Kevin,
as well.
I think that the 500,000, it's households that were affected across Virginia.
Right.
And there's 3.9 million households. So just
13%.
think about that percentage of Virginians losing power.